Alright, you lot, welcome back. It's time for another More Tribes Monday. Why didn't they do that? That's actually quite a good name. From Ogre More Tribes, More Tribe Mondays. Surely that would have caught on real quick. You know, as opposed to introducing it at the tail end of this. Which, to be fair, I could have been saying it this whole time, and I wasn't. It's only just occurred to me, which just goes to show the marketing can always be improved. I don't know that theirs can, actually. I'm saying that. It's like the biggest tabletop wargame on the planet. Do they really need to improve the marketing? Probably not. They seem to be selling enough without little things like More Tribe Mondays. Anyway, this is Morga the Mighty. What the hell was I talking about? And okay, look, where do we even start? So it takes a lot to lord it over an ogre, so imagine how tough the wall at the top must be. Actually, don't imagine, just look. Morga the Mighty is here. Now, I don't really know what to describe this as. It will obviously tell us. It'll tell us what the name of the thing is called. But I always like to, you know, take a glance, see what it reminds me of, where the sort of the reminiscence of other animals, where it leads you. And, I mean, really, what I'm getting from this is primarily hippo. Now, I don't think necessarily that's entirely all you're getting from it. But I am getting a strong sense of hippo off this particular creature, right? I think it's fair to say that there is an element of hippopotamus going on. The body alone feels kind of hippo-esque. Now, you could also argue rhino, but maybe there's a mix going on here, because you've got the little tiny ears, those are quite hippo-like. The head as a whole, excluding the horns, obviously, well, one horn and two tusks, that has definitely got a bit of hippo going on. The legs feel more rhino. Those feel a little bit more rhino. In fact, the build of the back of the body especially feels a bit more rhino, and so does that hunch over the neck there, going up from the back. An odd hybrid, but you know what? I actually quite like it. There is, however, something slightly cute about it, and I don't know what you could do to change that. I don't even know if you'd want to change it. There being a slight cutesy element to the head and the face is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it contrasts quite nicely with the nutter riding it, so there's that. But that is kind of where my brain goes pretty much straight off the bat here. As the over-tyrant of the Meat Fist, Morga is unquestionably the most powerful and influential ogre alive, so great in fact that the Conclave of Butchers have named her the champion of the Gulping God. Okay, but what's the animal called? We're going to scroll down. We are going to get to the other pictures, but I just want to know what the animal's called first. Here we go. So Morga rides into battle on her personal glutthorn Grutta, which is not the same as the other riders we've seen. So those guys were maul beasts, I think. Hang on, I'm going to check this. Yep, there we go. Maul beasts, slavering creatures from the far lands. Look, either way, Grutta, not the same creature. I mean, it doesn't look like the same creature, to be fair. There are some distinct differences, but I was just curious if there was like a similar naming convention, or if there was like some sort of evolutionary thing happening there. But no, it is a different, chunky mount. I tell you what, the ogres might always be hungry, but I'm thirsty as hell at the moment. Not like that. Luckily, I've been quenching my thirst with something truly delicious, Holy. You've probably heard me talk about Holy before, but if you haven't, Holy makes drinks. They make delicious drinks. They do Holy Energy, which is energy drinks, which makes sense. Iced teas, hydration, and milkshakes, which are delicious. As I'm sure you're aware, the UK has been in the grip of something of a heat wave over the last few weeks, and yes, whilst we have occasionally had days where it's got to as low as like 27 degrees Celsius, by and large, it's been pretty bad, which means that it is super important to keep yourself hydrated at all times, which is what I've been doing with Holy, because frankly, water gets boring. But you know what doesn't get boring? The passion fruit hydration flavour. Also, the strawberry and kiwi, absolutely delicious. Blueberry is one of my new absolute favourites. I'm afraid it's overtaken lemon at this point. Now, while I've defaulted back to the black 1 litre thermo shaker, there is another variety that you can get right now to celebrate the World Cup. If you buy the starter set deluxe, you will get a free thermo shaker in either Scotland or England colours. Now, as well as the starter set deluxe having that new thermo shaker, there's also 3 new hydration flavours which I've been absolutely piling through: green apple, blueberry and apricot. When you do pick up your starter set deluxe, deluxe from the link in the description and the pinned comment down below. Remember to use Kirioth5 for £5 off your first order, and then use code Kirioth for 10% off your orders after that. Thanks, Holy. Let's get back to some more ogre madness, shall we? Alright, so the beastie itself is quite cool. I do think there is a bit of cutesiness going on about the face, but like I said, I'm not too fussed about that. It still looks decent. It still looks pretty threatening. I mean, it's got a gigantic horn right in the center of the forehead there. One of the tusks being snapped is a nice touch. I quite like that. In fact, I like that a lot. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I'm not sure what's going on under the jaw. It just seems like there's a sort of black blank space there, but that can't be what it is. And we need to... Oh, I see what it is. I see. In a way, that's an unfortunate angle for that photo, because where the bits of armor over the kind of shoulders of this beast, where it curves round at the front, that follows the line of the tusk and the chin underneath really closely. Like, that's all it is. It's just the other side of the armor. But it follows it in a weird way that makes it look like there's some sort of odd cutout or a weird shadow going on, which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if it was photographed from a bit, like a bit more of a top-down angle, but then you wouldn't be able to actually see the character herself, whose name I've immediately forgotten. Morga, that's it. Like, you'd lose a bit there, so I think just one of those things from certain angles, it might look a little bit weird right at the front there, but you know what? The armor looks really cool. And it does echo the armor being worn by so many of the ogres, you know, having that plate with the maw around the edges. I like that that's echoed in it. So, yeah, I mean, just one of those things where it's like, and to be honest, a lot of models have this, where there's one angle where something just doesn't fit right, like the silhouette is just a bit weird, but then as soon as you turn it or, you know, move yourself, it ends up being nothing. I think this is one of those instances. I like the throne. The throne is very cool. Again, we've got that same motif of the open maw repeated a few times in the metalwork up there. That's very cool. The the cloak, cape, coat, whatever that is, the sleeveless trench coat there, I quite like it. It feels a little bit different. We haven't seen much of that in the, like, other reveals so far. We've not seen any other ogres that have that sort of style going on necessarily, that I can remember anyway. It's different. I do quite like the texture it brings. That is quite fun. Also, I think the back of that throne is essentially just a pelt that's been nailed to two giant tusks, which is also kind of fun. That is pretty neat. Having the massive horns on either side as well, it's a good look. It's always a good look, every time. All right, let's do some close-ups and other angles. So the close-up of the big old throne, excellent. It does look good from the back. I love that there's still like not necessarily a bedroll. That wouldn't be big enough for this particular ogre, or indeed any ogre, I don't think. But having a pack and various things attached to the back to make it feel a bit more like there's utility there. Like it is, you know, a status symbol. But there's also, like, practical stuff going on here, and I quite like the fact that there is that practical stuff. The maul doesn't look like that is long enough to be hitting anyone from up there. That might be my only real criticism here. I feel like that weapon should simply be bigger. You know, and unless she's getting off to whack people, I don't know, it just seems a little lackluster. I think I'd prefer something bladed and longer than that, because it's just not... It just doesn't feel special. I mean, to be fair, maybe that's the point. Maybe that is what they're going for. It doesn't need to feel special. The character itself is special enough. The mount is special enough that having something, you know, super overblown weapons-wise is unnecessary, but it just doesn't look like it's going to do much from where she is, which is a little bit of a shame, I think. You can kind of get a better view of her face from this angle as well, and she looks suitably a mix of hungry, angry, and slightly amused. I mean, to be fair, if I was sitting that high up, and I had essentially a small army of lunatics trying to get meat, I would also find myself grinning a fair bit. The way that the helmet echoes what's going on either side of the big beastie there, that's kind of cool. The armor being mimicked a little bit with those tusks coming out of the helmet, that's fun. That is very fun. Also being fashioned into a crown, which I hadn't even noticed straight away. Man, that is a cool detail. I like that a lot. So we've also got like a generic build as well, by the looks of things. So yeah, multi-part plastic kit also comes with the option to build it as a Tyrant mounted on their own glutthorn. And straight away, I feel like that sword just looks a bit better than them all. There's no specific mention as to why it's the weapon of choice or anything that I can see. But for my money, that blade just looks a little bit more menacing. It looks a bit more scary, and if anything, maybe a little bit more capable of reaching far enough down to actually do something. Although even then, it's not huge. Like, well, obviously it is a huge sword, but comparatively to where the rider is sat, doesn't look quite long enough still. I do like the alternate build here for the glutthorn with that head. Like, that head looks a little bit more menacing, I think, because the mouth is open that much more. I will say, with the mouth open, the hippo call, I feel, is pretty spot on. I think that's pretty spot on. The way that the teeth are jutting out of the gums in there, again, I'm getting strong sort of hippo senses from it. But it's a solid build again. The expression on the Tyrant is very good. I do like the alternate build for the throne as well. Having it just be that one massive symbol instead of multiple smaller ones, it's like a good differentiation, but it fits super well. It is a bit simpler, but it is also very, very striking. I think, actually, for my money, that throne is kind of more striking because it's that bit more simple. It's just one massive symbol. You just cannot miss it. And I think I prefer that a little bit. Like, maybe the sweet spot is a mix of the two. Like, if you want to build Morga the Mighty, using that version of the throne, I think, would work quite well. I don't know how. Well, I mean, when it comes to swapping weapons, that's as easy as you want to make it when it comes to kit bashing. It could be quite difficult, but you might just power through and go for it, which I would be tempted to do. But again, the sword is not quite as long as I would have hoped, given the riding position. The cloak looks great. Really like that cloak. I like the way it's billowing to one side. That's very fun. And again, the helmet is excellent. It's just so over the top, like the sweeping down, the mimicking of tusks, but made out of jagged metal instead. It's a great look. It's a great look. It works brilliantly, and yeah, nailed it. Absolutely nailed that. Interestingly, they do specify that the glutthorn can be built with or without the large armor plates, so that's kind of fun. It's a nice way of doing it. Frankly, they wouldn't need to do that. It would look perfectly fine. I don't think anyone would think anything of it if you couldn't put the armor plates on. But that little bit of variety, that little bit of choice, also suggests that maybe you might be able to build it with one armor plate as opposed to both. Having like one hugely damaged armor plate and some scarring on the other side where it's like fallen off and then not been replaced for whatever reason, that could be a fun look. I quite like that they've put that choice in there. Overall, Morga and the Tyrant on glutthorn both look absolutely solid, and it's yet another win for the Ogor More Tribes refresh. It's been solid from the start, it continues to be solid, and they've got me. They've got me hook, line and sinker. I'm just going to end up being an Ogor More Tribes player. I have resigned myself to this fact. I have acknowledged that it's going to be a thing that happens, and yeah, I guess well done. And also, why? I've got so much other stuff I need to paint. Have you seen how much War Machine is right here? That's not even all of it. There's another box that I'm still putting together, and another one on the way. What am I need more hours in the day, please. Please give me more hours in the day. Or alternatively, I can just drink loads of holy energy and try and stay up as late as possible. I don't recommend doing that just because, sleep is good for you, but it is an option. Now think about it. Anyway, let me know what you thought of that lot in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Holy. Remember to check them out using the link in the description and the pinned comment. And remember to check out the Starter Set Deluxe. Use that Kirioth5 discount code at checkout. And I'll see you for the next one.